Hi everyone, welcome to this channel. My name is Lavanya and I'm a recently qualified chartered accountant. I have cleared my CA exams in the first attempt and I also hold a CA foundation. In this video, my objective is to give you, what was my strategy to prepare for my auditing paper and, what are the tips that you can keep in mind while you're for a lot of us, including me, we've done our articleship in audit. I did my articleship from PwC, but the fact is, when it comes to your question paper and how you should answer the questions, practically you might know everything and you will actually understand, what the content is trying to tell you. But the examiner is actually looking for a certain language and a certain flair, which, where you'll come only from reading the textbook multiple times, right? Even though conceptually you will know everything, you need to be able to write it in those words. So for that, my first tip would be is to read the textbook multiple times. Ensure you go through the textbook multiple times, because the more readings you do, the language of audit actually sticks in your head, which means you can write it. Now, how do you read? Right? Do you just randomly pick up chapters? This I feel like that is not really an adequate use of time. What I did was, again, I broke down my entire audit portions into three parts. The first would be your auditing standards, right? So your essays, the entire bunch, that was one chunk. My second chunk would come to your company audit, right? So that was another chunk, because that is obviously similar to what you have already done in your intermediate and what is there in law, right? And the third chunk would be your audit of banks, consolidated financial statements, insurance, companies, NBFCs, tax audit, right? So I had put that entire module under one chunk. And the fourth bucket that I had put it into was your due diligence, peer review, professional ethics, right? So this is how I had broken my auditing portions as a whole into four parts. And I had studied it accordingly. Now, taking up on each part, right? First thing is for your standards on audit, right? In your institute material, at least if you see, the standards of auditing are actually spread across that entire first module, your audit planning, risk assessment, and environmental. But what I realized was that was not the most effective way to study it, and I found it to be a slight, not very useful use of your time. So for all the standards of auditing, I had directly taken a printout of, Atul Agarwal sir's notes, because I found those to be very succinct, and, it was less than like one page for each standard. And it just covered all the important parts which would come in your question paper, right? So what he had done is he had taken all the potential questions from all the previous year papers, RTPs, MPPs, and just summarize that to give you the information what is required in your essays. So for me, I had just done the standards of auditing from his money. The second part is when it comes to company audit, right? Company audit, audit of consolidated financial statements, audit reports, all of this come into one bucket. What I had done was I had just used the institute material, and I had actually made my own summary notes for this, which actually was half page for each section number, and I thought that was enough. Now the third part, which comes to audit of banks, audit of insurance, audit of NBFCs, I personally was just not interested in this, and I thought that there was just so much portions for very little marks. So for this bunch, what I had done was I had just gone through all the questions from a question bank and from the back questions, so that I knew what are the potential type of questions that can come from this. Because coming from an audit background, you obviously have a certain idea what are the procedures that can be performed. So I knew if a question came for 5 marks and I had to attempt it, I would at least get a 2 or a 3 in that, and I did not want to waste my time optimizing for it. The fourth part, when it comes to your due diligence, peer review, and professional ethics, again, I had done it only from the institute material. And what I had done was I had gone through multiple videos on YouTube to mark, what are the important concepts in this, what are the important questions in this, and I underlined everything in my textbook. So when it came to the last day, I could read much. Specifically speaking about professional ethics, what I had done is, again, I had just done the institute material and I had gone through all the clauses. I took an A4 size sheet and I just wanted to recall what each clause was. Because in the paper, when you have to write the answers for professional ethics, you have to quote your clause number and you have to quote the exact language of the clause. So I took an A4 size sheet paper and I wrote it multiple times, all the clauses, all the clause numbers in. I had like summarized it. I made my own mnemonics and everything, and that is how I had prepared for professional ethics. With professional ethics specifically, the first time that you read it, the first part, and all you realize, you think that, oh my God, there is so much information. But honestly, when you start solving the questions for professional ethics, it is very easy to identify which clause it is coming from. So again, you're gaining marks only if you write the language because everybody can, find out which clause it's coming from. So that was something I focused on. This was my overall strategy for audit because I knew that you can't study 100% of the portion and you can't keep reading the textbook. So what I had done was once I had broken down my portion into these four buckets, I had given a specific strategy for each and done it. Now, what are some of the additional things that, right? The first thing is please kindly read and go through all your previous year papers, your RTPs and NTPs. RTP, at least I would say your current attempt and the previous attempt do go through. And yes, that is what I've done. Go through your previous year papers, your RTPs and your NTPs, and you'll go through them. Second thing is that for your MCQs, specifically for audit, I didn't find, any such pattern or anything. So whatever prep you're doing, just regularly, I would say that is enough for your audit MCQs, at least for you to answer it good enough. So this was my overall strategy for audit that I had followed. Now coming to the material that I had followed, like I said, I actually didn't take any classes for my auditing, and my main textbook and my main material was always the institute. Now, supplementary to that, I had actually taken a printout of Atul Agarwal sir's standards on auditing, and specifically only for that portion, I had used it. This brings me to the end of this video. I really hope it has helped you and given you some insights. And do feel free to reach out to me for